Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. It is a Wednesday edition, Roto Grinders Daily Fantasy Fix podcast. I am Dan Bach, presented to you by FanDuel, and happy that this week all of us survived a trip to New York, and it's not just myself. We've got the Hoop man, Mike Petta. We've got Big T rolling out of the sack in time this morning to join us. T, I'm glad that your kids gave you the wake-up call for the podcast today because we missed you last week.
I mean, you guys are the early birds. I mean, these 9:30 on the East Coast even podcasts they're tough for Big T to get out of the sheets.
I was gonna say you are the. I mean, you run so pure that even as a father of two, going to be three, you still can roll out of the bed at like 10 o'clock. 10:30, 11 o'clock. How the hell does that happen?
You say I run good, but you're not there at 1:30 in the morning when they're climbing all over my ass.
That is a big trade-off. I'm not going to lie. That is a big trade-off. Mike, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, doing well. Not as well as Tony, obviously. The guy's just a pure legend, absolute GOAT, but I'm hanging in there. You and I both ran into some disasters when we got back from New York, but all settled and back to the grind, so happy to be here.
Yeah,
by disasters, you mean shipping 1K tournaments the first night back?
DFS-wise, yes, things have gone well since New York.
I mean, it must be a rough life being in the hoop life. Just come back, win a 1K, and it's tough though. It's a tough life.
Yeah, it is. It is when you run over your main power extension for your Christmas lights with the snowblower like 2 hours after landing.
You don't hire people to snowball?
I was going to say, that's your problem, Hoop. Like, for me, I can't hire somebody to watch sick kids. Like, that doesn't work. Nobody wants that job in the world. But you could easily go down the road, find some high school kid, pay him $25 and say, snowblow until your heart's content. I don't want to see a flake on my driveway. And they would happily do that.
The problem I have is I'm not a very handy person, I guess. So there's very few things I can actually do around the house. One is cutting the grass. Two is shoveling the snow. So, like,
obviously, you failed at one of them.
Exactly. I might need to reconsider. So, I guess maybe I'll just be a grass cutter, and that's it here. I'll have to outsource the snow, but I feel
outsource it all, dude. I'm telling you, some people like cut grass and think it's therapy. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, there's nothing. My time is way too valuable to be sitting there cutting grass. Now, I'm on a corner lot too, so I got a little bit more yardage than maybe some people. But
that's not surprising that you got a big old plot of land there in Florida.
Nobody has land in Florida. I'm like the only guy who's got land in Florida. But no, like, just hire people, man. I mean, come on, Hoop. Like, you're shipping these 1Ks, like, you should be able to, just pony that up.
I learned my lesson. The worst part is I got the warning from the wife too. She says, don't snow blow up by the house. And then she said something after that. Well, I didn't hear the something after don't snow blow. I'm not getting the shovel out around here. I'm just going to keep, going with the snow blower. And of course, run over the court stick. I told you not to snow blow by the house. I said, I know you did, but, I didn't understand why. She's like, well, if you would have listened, I told you the cords are right there. So lesson learned.
So that's a double whammy too, because it sucks because you got to deal with it and be like, clean up the mess that you just made. But then the wife has the whole bragging, like, I told you so. That that is probably even worse than the cleanup. It's the I told you so.
I told you so. Why didn't you listen to me? Combos, just man, that's a 1-2 knockout punch.
Absolutely. As you can tell, boys and girls, this is the Dad Life DFS podcast. I think we might need to change the name a little bit to this. But we're going to get into NBA for tonight, this Wednesday. And what an interesting night we had last night, fellas. Russell Westbrook finally looked human last night, Hoop. How'd your cash games go? Was he somebody that you played in cash yesterday? Was there enough value for you?
Oh, yeah. Didn't go so well for me yesterday. The combination of him and especially on FanDuel, like, it seems like super odd to get. It was hard to get a good fit. Ended up playing Derrick Rose alongside Mr. Russell Westbrook. So I guess you can probably imagine how well my night went.
Well, it was better off that the whole thing was a freaking failure. It would be one thing if you had that, Westbrook put up 60 and then, you're 8 points away from the cash line on 50-50s and Rose gets hurt in the first quarter. That's infinitely worse, I think. If you just go down in a blaze of glory. That's the way I say it.
That's how I am. I prefer the massive blowout loss opposed to hanging in there right to the end, hoping you get there and then failing. So I'm always a proponent of the big time blowout loss opposed to the gut wrenching close call.
Yeah, no doubt. I am completely with you. Looking back at yesterday, what were the big plays that kind of hit yesterday, Hoop? I put in 150 in the $4 on DraftKings yesterday. It's funny, it's just treading water. I swear for me when I script up those low dollar tournaments, it's maybe up 50, down 50, and you just hope that you kind of land on that one night. And it's really hard to do in those 100K plus entry tournaments. But what was the must-haves yesterday in DFS?
Well, it looks like Kevin Love with the news of Kyrie Irving out. I know a lot of people pivoted to him. He had the big game, and then I think Jimmy Butler going to him with Rondo out seemed like a very safe play. So I think those are kind of the two guys that got everyone over the hump there.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler's just, man, he's a goat.
Zinger. Don't forget about my boy, the Zinger. He outscored Kevin Love.
It took overtime to get there for the Zinger.
The Zinger you don't like the Zinger?
I like the Zinger. He's all right.
He's good. He's real good.
I saw him get into a fight yesterday, though, on some highlight, which was pretty awesome because normally the Euros, they're not overly aggressive. They're
like to avoid confrontation.
Exactly.
Avoid confrontation. And I think it was Marquez Chris knocked him down, and he went up and went right at him. So kind of old school there.
If you get booed on draft night, he had a little spunk to him from the beginning, I think.
Well, good call, Knicks fans. Way to boo your best draft pick over.
I was studying your guys' film on the Facebook earlier today, by the way. I seen you guys knocking down some J's on the old Facebook.
What was that? I mean,
video I posted. You didn't see it yet?
Oh, I did, and I had a follow-up post of my preferred film basketball moment.
I didn't see the follow-up. I need to check.
Oh, you didn't see that? Have you seen the movie The Cable Guy?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, I think I prefer Cable Guy basketball scene over. I don't even know what that's from. What is that? Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I think it was Along Came Polly, maybe, or I don't know, maybe not.
One of those. So are we gonna play this weekend or what? I'm gonna bring my sneaks. So that's all I know.
We're playing for sure. We got warm weather. Hoop's got dead foot or whatever he was talking about as an excuse, but. We have warm weather. We'll find a hoop somewhere.
All right. Well, I'm bringing the Air Jordans.
Glad you could toss in a joke at a guy that had legitimate nerve damage from knee all the way through foot.
I wouldn't be having jokes, but I don't want excuses. There's been too much trash talk for.
I think if there's one viable excuse that could qualify as one potentially. No breaks against Big T. I respect that.
You can tap out.
Now, is the condition really called dead?
Tap out.
Drop.
Is the condition really called dead foot, or is this just a Big T
no, it's
made of medical condition?
He got close. It's called drop foot. It is actual legitimate condition. But Tony just trying to take jabs at a guy while he's down.
I kind of like dead foot better than drop foot, but that's all right. All right, let's get to tonight in hoops. Again, over on FanDuel, they are our sponsor for today, as usual. And hey, how about a $500,000 mega monster today, fellas? That sounds pretty desirable. Right up your alley, Big T. The slam sitting at 200K, the shot 350K, the baller 100K, and looks like we've got another $1 million alley-oop happening on January the 2nd. So that was the $1,500 buy-in tournament. That was a lot of fun last go-around. So if you want to start chasing those tickets, I'm already seeing a few satellites out there on FanDuel. So good to see we got some more seven-figure tournaments on the horizon over there, and check it out. Lots of good stuff happening over on FanDuel today. That's going to be the salaries that we're going to kind of look at here today, and a full slate. But let's kind of just get to the obvious news here, and that is Cleveland deciding to sit LeBron, sit Kyrie, sit Love, and basically as soon as the game was over, saying, here are our starters for tomorrow, which was kind of rare, but also kind of nice, Hoop. I mean, it feels like all the value we need on this slate is pretty much right in that game.
Yeah, I mean, when anytime you get a team to go ahead and rest their big three and be generous enough to give us the information the night before, it makes roster construction a little bit easier the next day. First glance at this site, at this slate, the one issue is it appears that the best value from the Cavs are going to be at the positions where like the top stars are playing. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit more throughout the slate, but needless to say, we have a lot, that opens up a ton of value, which, we can go a lot of different routes building lineups.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue we have, and I kind of want to just touch on Cleveland first here, and then we'll get positional, is that they've got not one, not two, not three, but four players who are at shooting guard. DeAndre Liggins, Shumpert, J.R. Smith, James Jones, and heck, you could put Jordan McRae on that list if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay, we'll just play two of them. But then that takes James Harden against Sacramento at home out of the mix, which is probably one of the top options for us here today, T. So, I mean, let's kind of like just quickly handicap the value here on Cleveland. Like, who is our favorite? Who do we want most out of these guys? Let's start with UT.
I mean, I think clearly J.R. Smith is a lock, 100% lock for tonight at 3,500. Like, I don't care who you have to fade to get him. I mean, he's just too good of a play. You can't fade JR. And then after that, I mean, I think Shumpert and Liggins are probably the next two best plays just because of the ball. I mean, Liggins hasn't had a huge usage rate, but with all those guys out, he's got the ball in his hands, and his usage is going to spike big time. So I actually think Liggins would be my second favorite. Kind of like start with those two at the guards, and they're both min price, so I'm just going to play two of these three guys, and I don't really consider any of the other ones, but I could play a guy like Channing Frye who can score at the power forward. We'll get to that in a little bit. But at the shooting guard, I'm almost a lock to play two of these three Cavs guys. I love Harden, but I can't fade this kind of value at min price.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to make that work on DraftKings because of the flexibility they have. But on FanDuel, it's going to be tough. And I know it's early in the day for, lineup construction, Hoop, but do you feel like you're going to fade Harden today for two of these guys, or do you roll, another value at, say, Channing Frye at power forward or Kay Felder at point guard? I mean, what's your kind of initial kind of plan on this?
Yeah, I think like Tony said, I think he nailed it. I pretty much agree with him. It's J.R. Smith, it's Liggins and Shumpert. I think Liggins and Shumpert pretty comparable plays, but I think I actually prefer Liggins a little bit more. So J.R. Smith at the min, basically around the industry, is probably close to a must play. The shot attempt should be way up there. I'd probably guess around 20 if he gets his full allotment of minutes. Liggins, low usage guy, but when you take out the three highest usage players on the team, the usage should be there. So it's tough to fade Harden. He's by far for me the top play on the slate. But when you have value like this that should be pretty stable, I think it makes it a little bit easier to do so.
I will say one more thing too, from a non-DFS perspective. Memphis is only favored by 6.5 at home. Like, that might be the lock of like the universe for me. There's no way Memphis doesn't blow this Cleveland team out tonight. Like, it's going to happen.
Especially with Gasol playing. It'd be one thing if it was still up in the air whether they were going to play him or not, because then it's like.
Have you seen Memphis's record?
What's the
record?
record?
We don't follow records as much because we're DFS. Like, I never look at it, but I know they've been competitive. They're like 13-6 or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they've given up more points than they've scored, so that just shows how much they grind.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, I don't think they're that good, but
they just grind. Though is the point. Like, they're going to kill these secondary guys.
What do we think Smith tournament ownership is going to be? Let's say the Mega Monster tonight, higher kind of dollar tournament. What would you put it at, Hoop?
In that Monster, I'd say probably 50% range.
I think higher. What do
Higher?
you think, Tony?
I mean,
It could be like
100. It
70.
should literally be 100, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think it always ends up falling around 50 or 60. I mean, whenever I think a guy should be 100, it's usually around 50 or 60. It seems.
I'm betting it's like 70%. I'm thinking it's like 70% on FanDuel today.
How could you fade him unless you hear something like they might limit his minutes, or I mean, he's going to be gunning. Like JR loves launching,
And
There's
it doesn't
no one out there. Like he's gonna. Oh, there's just no way you can fade it.
and it doesn't help that he like had his best game of the season.
That's what I was just gonna say. Literally,
Yesterday.
that was his best game of the season last night.
I watched that entire game too, and even the shots he was missing, he was like rattling them in and out. Like they were all over the rim.
All right, well, let's get to our positional breakdown here, fellas. And we got Russell Westbrook back on the slate tonight against Utah. You know, obviously looked human last night. Hoop and I were chatting a little bit earlier about it. And it was probably the one day of the year for sure we've had this season, one of maybe two or three, that if you played Westbrook, you probably didn't win. What do you think about tonight? Utah's typically – the back end of a back-to-back is never ideal, but especially when you go to Utah or a team like Denver, I think it's that much tougher. Tony, he's $12K. The price dropped a little bit on him. I don't think value, I think everybody's in play because of all the value we have out there, but how desirable of a spot is this for Westbrook? Do we get a bounce back?
Yeah, I can't wait to play him. Like I watched that game last night. I mean, they got blown out. It was just one of those off nights for OKC. I mean, at halftime, I had Westbrook and Lillard in my cash, and they were at 28 and 25 at halftime. So they were right on pace at half. It just turned into a blowout, and you can't control that. He didn't play the whole fourth. I can't wait to come back with him tonight with all the value. It's a tough spot, but I'm assuming George Hill's going to be out again since he has been. I don't know if we know yet this early in the day, but I'm assuming he's going to be out again. If George Hill does play, I like him a lot less just because George Hill's a good defender, obviously, but I'm almost for sure going to play him. There's too much value. I'll probably spend up on both point guard spots, even the way the slate looks.
And who's the other one you pay up for?
I mean, I like John Wall a lot. He's especially in cash games. He's got such a high floor lately. Going against a guy like Kemba, Kemba can't handle him. He's too big, too quick. I like John Wall a lot for floor, and then a tournament option. Maybe not as much for John Wall, but. Yeah, I mean, I definitely like him for cash, though, with all the value out there.
All right, Hoop, talk to me about some of the other guys we got. Do you like where does Paul come into the conversation for you at Orlando, maybe versus versus a John Wall? Because we know you love Westbrook. You're going to go back there. I know you are.
I mean, yeah, for Westbrook, it's like the worst possible spot. I mean, going to Utah on the road. I think worst case scenario, really good tournament play. I still think it's hard to avoid him in cash. I mean, the thing, the way I think, it's like these top stars are so much better than any defense out there. Like it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters to some extent, but if they're on their game doing their thing, to me, it doesn't matter what defense they're going against. And that's kind of the case here with Westbrook. I don't think he'll be very high owned. I think people will look to avoid him tonight because of this matchup. So like him a lot in tournaments and definitely not opposed to him in cash. John Wall, I think, is number 2, like Tony said. Chris Paul, Lowry, I think are good tournament guys. I think they'll be low owned, and they have the same upside as a guy like John Wall. So that's kind of my take in this top tier.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't quite agree that he's going to be low owned just because of the value that we have. We are going to have multiple min salary guys out there. Obviously, Cousins at the center spot will be super high, but with the fact that you do have all those Cleveland guys at shooting guard, I think it'll take away some of that ownership on Harden. I think naturally people will be like, I'm just going to play Westbrook because I agree. If with no value on the slate, sure, this is a perfect fine spot to kind of maybe go look somewhere. But when you've got starters at min salary with star players and usage completely gone,
Yeah.
I think the ownership will still be pretty high on him.
Maybe not low owned, but I guess I meant to say like lower than typically would be owned, like lower than we're used to seeing out of him, even with this value. I think people still look.
I think the hard part though is like there's just too much value. Like there's nowhere to spend. It's just Westbrook and Boogie and Wall. Like on FanDuel, you just have too much salary. Like even if people don't like him, they're going to play him, which stinks for us because I wish like Anthony Davis was on the slate or something. Because I think if one more star was on the slate, we would get him super low owned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a path that a lot of people go in roster builds here today, and then maybe in tournaments you can take advantage of that a little bit, but it's still like you said, like
Such
you really want to
do you
want to fade J.R. Smith if he's 90% owned? Like, no, I kind of still don't.
It's such a good game theory spot for the game theory people.
It is.
I don't know if I can do it, but just pretend the Cavs game's not even on the slate in your tournament,
and hope it's 80 to 75 or something at the end of
it. It could easily, like my theory too was that Memphis blows them out. Like if it gets ugly and it just turns into a crappy game, like you're in just an incredible spot. Even if those Cleveland guys get like 20 to 25, like it just gives you a different roster build to where if you get like DeRozan and all these like middle to high tier guys go for like 6x, like it's an interesting game theory. I'm not saying it's the right way, but it's an interest, especially on a night where there's a big monster. But then you go to the reverse thing. You could talk about it all day. Is that there's a lot of people that think like that, and then all of a sudden maybe we get the Cavs guys lower on than we think.
There's no way. I don't think so. I mean, I think I agree. Like, sometimes people outthink it, but there's just
especially in the higher ones.
Yeah, but there's just I think that's more in like the 1K versions because like I've heard Ram talk about a lot where chalk that you see in like $3 and $20 buy-ins are not chalk in 1Ks because people get cute and the field is smaller. It's still a pretty big field on the 300 tonight with a $500,000 total prize pool. Any value we want to go to here, Hoop? Darren Williams has been good, but this Detroit game, it's just slow paced. I think it's an easy pass for me. And our boy Elfrid Payton last night did it again with another big game. I think he got to close to 50 fantasy points as a bench player. It's hard to get too excited about these low dollar guys. Anybody stand out to you?
I mean, I don't mind Darren Williams. Not a building block, but I think he's a safe play to not bust. Darren Collison's a guy that's interesting with the Sacramento Kings without, I think Rudy Gay's doubtful or ruled out, not likely to play. So that opens up a lot of usage for the Kings. And even Ben McLemore was starting, and I believe he's out as well or questionable, doubtful, something to monitor. But that should open up some minutes usage for guys like Collison, Caspi. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Patrick Beverley, I mean, he's 5.4K, and he just gets it done. I mean, literally. I mean, Tony likes to call guys grinders. I mean, this guy has to be the definition of a grinder. 5.4K, hasn't been under 22 fantasy points in 6 straight games. Gets a good matchup here. So yeah, those are some other guys I'm kind of interested in.
What about Tony, Pat Beverley or Marcus Smart tonight? Pretty close in price. Who do you like?
What about the best play at the point guard position, point per dollar?
Who's that?
Who is it?
Mr.
Andrew Harrison going against the Cavs. Lock him in, boys. Lock him in.
Such a troll.
I will say, if he does get matched up versus Kay Felder, he's got like 8 inches on that.
He went for 28 last night against the good team. He's going to play the JV tonight. Look out, boys. 4,200 guaranteed value. Lock him in.
Lock him in.
Do it, D. Do it.
He'll be on my team. Don't worry about that.
All right, let's get to shooting guard. And again, we already touched up on all the guys from Cleveland, so we don't need to spend too much time on this one. But as I think Tony alluded to, I think you're going to get really low ownership on the high end guys here today, just because people aren't going to need to want to roster DeMar DeRozan when they've got value at this position or James Harden at this position. Like I think we could get guys like DeRozan and Batum likely today at like maybe even under 5% ownership, which is surprising, but very possible. So what's the pivots for us, Tony?
Like I said, I mean, if I don't play 2 of those cheap guys, which, I mean, on almost every team I'm going to play 2 of those guys, like I would just go straight to the top and play Harden and I like Beal a lot, even though he's going to get some Batum
There
defense.
we go. Finally.
Finally what? I always play Beal.
You mentioned the name Beal. I've been
I
waiting.
always play Beal. I love Beal. Not as much as you do, but I do love him. He's got a tough spot tonight, though. The more I think about it versus Batum, I do like him, but it makes it even tougher. It's tough to play Beal at $7K when you can play J.R. Smith when he could score the same amount of points at 3,500.
Here's my issue here, too, as well. The highest total game of the night, Lakers in Brooklyn. And it's not even close. I mean, Brooklyn is so bad on defense. This game's like close to 230 here tonight, Hoop.
Yeah.
But this is a loss
spread, too.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really game has a potential to really be interesting. But you've got a lot of, at least these Lakers guys, you've got Lou Williams sitting here.
28 minutes.
The problem is
both
teams are on the verge of getting completely healthy, and they're playing. Both teams are playing so deep as well. So
yeah,
that's what makes it tough. I mean, it makes it really tough for most of those guys, the cap on minutes is going to be around 28, which is not super appealing. So I mean, yeah, it's the highest total by far. It could be the most competitive game with that highest total too. So it's tough to pick.
If Lynn would start, would you have any interest in him? I mean, he played 20 minutes last game and did pretty well in that time.
Tournament option, I think. I mean, just because, the minutes, it's just both teams spread them out.
I kind of like Sweet Lou a little bit in tournaments too, but
I'll tell you who's underpriced in that game. Kilpatrick's down to 5,300. That is a really nice price for him.
Yeah, he's been terrible though lately. Terrible.
He had 2 bad games. Before that, he was solid. And then one of the games was against the Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is they're just getting healthy. And, I think that has some matchups not the greatest there against the Spurs, but I think more so has to do with the fact that they're getting healthy and his usage is dropping a little bit.
Yeah, you got Boston on the Spurs tonight. Avery Bradley, 6.9K, another guy who's going to be really low owned here today. With no Isaiah Thomas, that scoring's kind of spread out a little bit. I thought Bradley would be more than he is, but, we're probably spending too much time on a position that's really pretty easy today. So let's get to small forward here instead. And we don't really have anybody, I think, from this Cleveland game small forward eligible on FanDuel. Again, Rudy Gay looks like he's going to be out. No word yet on who's going to step in. Could be a guy like Matt Barnes, potentially, if he's not arrested for whatever happened in New York. But what do you like here at small forward? Hoop, lead us off. What you got?
Top tier, not super appealing. Obviously, LeBron James out. We have Paul George in a less than ideal matchup against the Heat. Kawhi Leonard, who Tony's takes are starting to rub off. I have to admit, he's having an impact on my opinion on Kawhi Leonard. But he's been good lately. I mean, but if I'm going in this top tier, I think it's going to be Gordon Hayward. I mean, just been super consistent. Gets a good matchup here with the Thunder. It is an up-tempo game for the Jazz, obviously. I mean, basically anytime they take the court, it's an up-tempo, but this is a really good one. And look at what he's done. I mean, it hasn't been under 36 fantasy points in like 10 straight games. So I think he's a safe option tonight.
I still like Kawhi better than him.
Think so?
I do. I mean, 3 straight over 40 shot. I mean, it just feels like he hit that cold streak there. I mean, if you look at the shooting logs over the last few versus the streak before that, and he just wasn't making shots. I mean, Hayward's fine. I don't even have a problem playing both those guys, but for 200 more, I feel maybe just a little bit better with Kawhi. What do you think, Tony? Where do you land?
I mean, I like Hayward much better for sure. I
like it. Why did I even ask?
Kawhi just has no upside. Like, I mean, if he has a great game, he'll 5X for you, which is fine.
Well, what's Hayward's upside? I mean, his ceiling is 50. I mean, that's the same as Kawhi's.
He's just so consistent, though. Like Hoop said, like he's been over 36 every game basically once he got healthy and rolling. So I don't know. I like the matchup slightly better too versus OKC. I don't know. I mean, I like your idea. I could play both of them in cash. I'm not a huge Kawhi guy, but this is a slate where I don't mind him just because you can spend up, and I don't love the cheaper end of the position all that much. So Actually,
No, I don't like it
my
at
boy
all.
Damari Carroll, so I do like the position down there because Damari Carroll's the GOAT.
Yeah, Damari Carroll, he's all right. I don't like him for
come on,
casual.
All right.
We gotta
He's the GOAT.
we gotta church that up a little bit more.
4.3K against Philly. Blowout potential here,
All those
Tony.
steals for a steal guy?
I mean, let me jump into Damari Carroll. I mean, 26, 22, 13, 21, 18.
For a
Like,
4K guy? You
Even
don't.
done. I'm on. I like Carroll too.
He plays 30 minutes a night too now. Like he's beautiful. He's what I love to put on Big T squad.
Okay. Well, I will say there's not much in the cheap seats down here. I'm not buying into the Dorian Finney-Smith game we saw a couple nights ago, so I think that's an easy pass for me. And by the way, screw you, Aaron Gordon. Like, I don't know what you did.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know what you did to get in the doghouse, but my God, you just didn't play at all in that second half. We got off to a quick start. I'm playing on DraftKings yesterday. He's 8% owned, and I'm like, yes. He gets off to this quick start, like 14 fantasy points in like the.
We were on him too.
And then all of a sudden, that second half, it was just nothing.
He was a reckless hack. 3 fouls in the first half, and then picked up the fourth with like 2 minutes into the second, just like out there running like a crazy man.
Played
Horrible.
18 minutes though. Finished with 4 fouls.
Yeah, he never came back in.
Let's
Why did
see.
he play 30 minutes a night though? Like he hasn't played 30 minutes the entire season.
Literally, I watched it. He was literally running around like a crazy man, just hacking the shit out of people the entire game.
That sounds kind of like me out there on the
That's what
court. I'm not gonna lie.
That's what Tony would have to do to try to keep up with Hoop Goat on the court there.
I mean, it shouldn't be hard keeping up with Deadfoot. I mean, he gonna run by me on one leg.
Healed. All I need is one leg to get by your slow ass.
Oh, man.
It's going to be a glorious weekend.
I'll have my shoes and I'll have my gear there. Just bring your stuff this weekend.
All right. Any interest in Jeremy Grant? He got the start yesterday. If Oladipo's out, 3.5? No, probably not.
Oh, definitely not.
I don't necessarily mind it. I mean, played 26 minutes. I think I prefer the other value guys more, and you know.
I would just rather play Roberson on that same team. Like Roberson, I actually don't mind Roberson tonight at 4K, even though Utah is like not known as a good matchup. It's actually a decent matchup for Roberson because he kind of mucks it up too. And I don't hate that spot for Roberson. I think he's safe. Put it that way. If you want like a guy to get right around 20 for you, I think he'll end up around 20.
As long as he doesn't dribble the basketball, he's going to turn it over.
He's ugly to watch.
That's bad.
Is there an uglier player in the league just as far as skill set and watching him play? That jump shot looks like Kenyon Martin used to look like when he would shoot free throws.
Yeah, it's bad. I think him and like Thabo Cephalosha, they look so similar out there. Like it's just not pretty.
They do look similar. That's hilarious.
That's just not pretty.
It's kind of like, who had the ugliest jump shot who went in that I can think of in the last 10 years? Who's that?
That went in.
The guy could stroke it for the most part. Ugliest jump shot in the league. Played on played on Phoenix.
Played on Phoenix.
Played on Dallas.
Yeah, I don't.
Sean Marion, the Matrix.
Oh, I didn't know he could shoot. You confused me.
He shot from the bench.
He can shoot. He can shoot.
Imagine if we had DFS when he was in his peak. He was a monster.
Yeah, when playing with the Suns there, yeah.
Self-statter, like he was one of the best stat stuffers of all time.
By the way, the Matrix is just a great nickname. Great nickname.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to power forward here. And again, I don't think is Channing Frye gonna. He's not gonna start, is he?
No.
I don't think it matters in this spot though if he starts or not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he is either. But he's probably like 20. If you're gonna set minutes on him today, 27.
Oh, I don't think he'll get that many. I would start at like 20 to 22 range.
Yeah.
He's
Probably.
3.6K versus Memphis. I still think he's a little bit interesting.
Real interesting.
I think
just because he can score. They need
but in
someone
20
to score.
minutes? In 20 minutes?
But he can score, though. Like, you need someone that can score.
I have literally no interest in him. The problem I have with him, it's like he's actually a lot better. All his shots made come from assists from LeBron James. The stats out there, it's a sick percentage of like every It's like 60 to 70% of his made shots come from LeBron.
What about the 10 years before he played with LeBron?
He sucked the 10 years before they played with LeBron.
He had plenty of good games when he had opportunity.
So we're gonna go ahead and reference a guy at the back end of his career. We're gonna pull as a reference point what he was doing 10 years ago.
He's been terrible his entire career. I don't know how Orlando.
He's not been terrible his entire.
Oh gosh, he's been terrible. He had one season. Orlando paid him like $50 million. It was probably one of the worst contracts I've ever seen. And then legitimately could not beat out.
Died and he came back from the dead. Like he almost died, didn't he? In Phoenix, he had like some disease or something. Almost died.
That's the sympathy card, I guess, but he's still not good.
I'll take it.
You can feel bad for him that he almost died, and I'm glad he didn't, but it's not good. Like, maybe he's good for somebody who almost died. I guess we can put him in that category.
He's 3.6K. He's gonna shoot.
I don't hate him. I don't hate him. I'm kind of with you, but because I mean,
I'm not making fun of you later tonight.
I get Hoop's stat that he's saying.
He's gonna play Markieff. I'm gonna play Fry, and I'm gonna like my chances.
You gonna play Markieff tonight?
Of course he is. Don't even ask him. He plays him every single night, and we're just betting one hundy stick every matchup that he doesn't get to 5x, and I'm gonna be able to retire by the end of the year.
Oh man,
he's got Charlotte. He's 5K tonight.
Beautiful, doesn't it?
You don't have to pull. You don't have to pull my arm.
And I'll probably be the donkey to play LaMarcus Aldridge for like the 50th time as well.
I just threw up. Oh, Markieff looks good over Aldridge.
Aldridge is a little expensive at 6'3" today, but I'm always a sucker for Aldridge.
You like Aldridge? And what are you, a Spurs guy?
Hey, I shouldn't be. That's for damn sure.
Aldridge is so. I would play Kawhi I'd play Kawhi and Markieff together before I played Aldridge.
What about Julius Randle today? Maybe he's the guy for the Lakers. And I think come on, they're going to score 100 and like 12 points.
For me is play Randle and Booker in that Lakers game. Get some exposure to two spots with two guys I really like. I love those two guys.
Yeah, I like Booker. 5.9 hoop. You can get behind that.
Oh, absolutely. I've loved Booker all year. I mean, it's just a minutes thing, and the minutes for him, I think, are more stable than just about anyone else on the squad. I mean, if he gets in the upper 20s, that's all he needs. 5.9K, we're looking for 28, 29 fantasy points. I think he's the safest play in that game with good upside too.
Memphis here. I mean, Zebo, he's going to be dead tonight. Like, didn't he play over 40? Did he play like 40 minutes yesterday? Like,
I have a feeling he might sit tonight.
I think so. Like this. I think he very well could. So maybe JaMychal Green gets a few more minutes in this matchup. I think he's a little bit cheaper too. I can't go back to the Zebo well, especially because Gasol's going to be playing today. Let's see. Blake Griffin, I mean, against Orlando, I don't see why we wouldn't consider him on a night with a lot of value, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with him totally. At 9K, I think he's underpriced, safe option. I mean, the main concern I haven't seen what the spread is on this game, but potential blowout. But 9K, I think he's still a fine play.
Anybody else here? Power forwards. What you got?
Yeah, who was I just looking at? I mean, you were talking about JaMychal Green. If Zebo does sit, like if you look at JaMychal Green's box scores, it's pretty impressive how consistent he's been. I didn't even realize it till yesterday, but with all these guys out for Cleveland, if Zebo sits, like I think JaMychal Green is almost as big a lock as like those Cleveland guys are. I mean, he's going to hit value for you with all these guys out. So I like him a ton. And then if you go in the cheap seats, like Marvin Williams at 4.3, I think is super safe. And I'm not a Marvin Williams guy at all, but that's a super safe price for him.
Is it Caspi or Marvin for you, Hoop? Assuming Caspi, I think there's a good chance he's going to start. Even if he doesn't, I think he's in line for like 25 to 27 minutes.
Is Gay out tonight?
I think he's going to be out. He's doubtful.
Yeah, he's going to be out. Both. I like both a lot, actually. I mean, that's tough. I probably would give the slight edge to Caspi. I think he can just kind of do more and more versatile player, and the minutes should be super, super stable if Gay is out. He's kind of surpassed Matt Barnes on that depth chart. You know, similar type players, but they're going to Caspi over Barnes on a pretty frequent basis. So I assume that he gets the start, but I like both guys, Marvin and Caspi.
I don't hate
Well,
Ryan
that's
Anderson
one thing about
tonight.
power forward too, like with the
Yeah.
with the way we were talking about earlier at shooting guard to go up to Harden. Like you look at power forward with all these cheap guys in good spots. It's an interesting thing to play J.R. Smith and Harden and come back and play two cheap power forwards because there's not a ton up top. If you don't love, I don't love Blake Griffin against a guy like Ibaka. I mean, that's a relatively tough matchup at 9.1. I think he's safe, but it's interesting to go Harden and JR and then play two cheap guys like Caspi and Marvin or something because Caspi with Gay out is like really, really good play, I think.
Yeah, I don't hate Anderson against Sacramento, too. Perimeter defense is so there. So he's a guy in tournaments, especially if you want to stack that game up. I'd want a piece of him for sure. All right, last spot for us is center. And I think DeMarcus Cousins here gonna see some pretty nice ownership. I don't see Clint Capella handling him particularly well today. I think Boogie, lock and load, 55. I think that's where we're projecting him at. It's a pretty safe number there for him against Houston here with Gay out. Like, more shots. Give me some Cousins. I think you're crazy if you're not playing him. Just put it that way.
Yeah, you look at the production recently. I mean, he's been over 51 fantasy points in 9 out of 10 games, and the only spot he didn't get to 50 was against Utah, who's obviously very strong with their interior defense. So think a very safe bet to get you 50, kind of, like you said. And on this slate where we have a lot of value, it's easy to go ahead and lock him in there. So I'm with you. I think he's a great spend tonight.
Tournament options, because I think Cousins and Cash is the way to go. I mean, we've got Embiid on this, but he's finally priced up to 7K. I don't think it's too much there, Hoop, but I think we're finally kind of where he needs to be.
Yeah, I like him at 7K. I think this is a fair price, but I still think it's too cheap, even if he's getting these 28 minutes. I mean, 35 or at 7K, we're looking for 33, 34, 35 fantasy points, and I just think he's a very safe bet to approach that number with the massive, upper 40 fantasy point upside.
What about UT? You got guys like Valanciunas and Gortat kind of in the middle tier. Brook Lopez in that high total game. He always gets overlooked. Brook.
Yeah, he does always get overlooked. I mean, he's tough. I mean, with this slate, though, I just don't see a reason to get out of that top tier. I mean, I think Boogie obviously is the best play, and I think Whiteside's a great tournament play at 8,700. He always comes through, and he's always got that upside. And then Embiid's probably the lowest I would go. So I think one of those three is really the only way to play the center tonight.
Keep our eye on what happens. Vucevic sat yesterday. We'll see if he is out again. Biyombo didn't do that much. I think on DraftKings, I could get behind maybe using multiple centers here. If you wanted to get Cousins and Whiteside together, I'd be fine with that play today. So not a horrible play.
Agree.
All right. Okay, I think that kind of sums up the hoop schedule for tonight. Again, tons of games out there. Before we get out of here, though, it's time for me to, thank my friends at The Books. That's right. Fellas, I don't know if you took my advice, but I brought some flowers for the Thanksgiving meal from thebooks.com, and mother-in-law was so impressed. She's like, Dan, you're just the best son-in-law ever to have brought these flowers for us to enjoy while we're eating our meal. So if you want to be like me and you want to be a better guy, and special to those people in your life, well, get them something from thebooks.com. Freshest premium flowers you can buy, freshly cut from sustainable and responsible farms, and more than anything, the prices are nice. $40. No unnecessary or frivolous upcharges. Free weekday delivery when you register with them with no hidden fees. And, hey, you know what? Just common sense, fellas. And it's all at thebooks.com. So listeners to our podcast right now, save yourself $15. That's right. Save yourself $15 when you go to books.com/rotogrinders. That's BOUQS.com/Roto-Grinders. Check them out. I promise you this holiday season, impress your in-laws, impress your wife, and $40 goes a long way. So, fellas, it's going to do it for us this week here in terms of the three-man podcast. We'll be meeting up in L.A. for the big FanDuel final this weekend. You ready for redemption, T?
Oh,
I know you and I were sitting there. You know, Drew Brees is on our is on the naughty list for us this week.
Last week was so close. I mean, I finished like 40th and 90th or something, so no one realizes it was close. But I was happy with my decisions and felt like
the
I had a
afternoon
chance.
games just they were just like you put yourself in position. You're like, okay, score the 50 points that you're supposed to, Tampa Bay and New Orleans, and you're like facing a top 10. I'm in the same boat, man. And it's
I haven't looked at the slate in depth yet, but I guarantee I won't be taking Breeze. I don't care who he plays. I hate that guy.
He's looked bad though. He's looked really bad the last 2 weeks. I mean, like it seems like every pass is low. He's like throwing
0 touchdowns in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
0 touchdowns in 2 weeks, and now he goes to Arizona. And then the interesting thing about that slate, though, boys, is Le'Veon Bell is in the night game, so he's not in it. And they've got a Saturday game and a Thursday
It's not
game.
the night game no more. The Bengals.
The Bengals,
They got flexed out. It's on the slate now.
Oh, it is. Oh, wow. That must have just what did they flex out?
They put in Dallas, Tampa Bay.
Ah, okay. So Lev Bell, that's interesting then. Because I thought, David Johnson was going to be like 90% owned with no Le'Veon Bell. He still might be 90% owned, but now they both might be 90% owned instead of just one. So interesting. Okay. A little bit of change to the slate. That's good to know. But guys, good luck. We'll catch you out there.
I'm going to be bringing the sneakers, though. I mean,
I'm bringing the
this
sneaks
on the record. I mean,
I'm bringing the sneaks. Now, I will say this much. And if this does happen, we need somebody to Periscope this thing, so that will be sure to follow us on Twitter if you're not doing that already. But I'm going to make one excuse here, okay?
You both got an excuse? You got
Yes, here's my excuse, is I am literally – I feel like as fat and out of shape as I've ever been in my life, okay? So that's all I'm going to say.
That's perfect because our opponents are in the same physical condition, so it won't really matter.
Exactly. So there's no excuse.
Okay. Damn it, Hoop!
I wake up every morning too, so I got the same excuses as you guys.
Well, it'll be fun. It'll definitely be fun. Well, guys, we're out of here. Thanks so much for listening, downloading the podcast. Thanks to FanDuel. And be sure to check us out tomorrow. I'll be around on Thursday's show. We'll talk some more NBA. And good luck tonight if you're playing DFS Hoops. For my buddies Tony and Mike, I'm Dan. Talk to you tomorrow here on Roto Grinders Daily Fantasy Fix. See you, everybody.